Okay, I just posted some photos on Instagram, which goes to Facebook, and someone saw the photo was of all a bunch of different samples that I did in some Zoom workshops over this weekend. But someone pointed this one out on Facebook, and they said, "I want to do this scene because they have these stamps." And I probably have, I don't know, several videos utilizing these exact stamps or really close to it, similar color schemes and whatnot, amongst the over 1,000 uploads of videos on the YouTube channel. But I couldn't find an isolated version of it. I think I have some sky layouts that I've done, and then I color them in one video, then I do kind of the foreground in another video, and then I do some kind of special touches on yet another video. And I thought I would just do this composition right here all in one video for them to see, if they do end up seeing it. I don't remember who it was now, because I have a bad memory. So anyways, this is going to be a really easy composition right here. It's mostly the sun right here and one other stamp right here, but the key to this one is in getting this range of values going from something very light to darker right here. I said two stamps, this is three here with the cloud with sun. Sometimes I just leave an opening in the clouds right up there. Okay, so I'm going to show you something. This composition right here, what I did was I stamped the clouds first, and then I colored in with some color. But I'm going to show you a way to make this one even faster, and it's, going to be a really simple process and execution here. The thing that I'm going to be using, let me throw in some other inks here. I have just a range of Marvy dye-based inks right here, but what I'm going to do is I'll add in some Distress inks because people are a lot more familiar with those. But the biggest thing about your take on this is that you can mix and match your pads. One of the things that I teach in my Stampscapes 1 class, which, anyone can catch on very easily, don't have to take the class, but if I'm doing kind of a range of tones and values or doing kind of a rainbow color scheme, the thing that I do is I just lay my pads out in whatever color scheme I'm working in, and I just lay them out from light to dark like that, okay? And that's basically, the color scheme that I'll be using. So this Distress ink mustard seed might fit right in here. And this, walnut stain probably goes like something like this. It looks fairly dark, but I just know it's lighter than this orange one right here. So let's just approach this piece in a very quick order. Now, I could stamp out those clouds and I could color them in, okay? But normally I'd always retain my darkest of impressions like that for after I do my coloring. Hello, Astrid. Good to see you. I was wondering if anyone would log in. It's 12:30 a.m. here, so I thought, well, maybe some people internationally might be awake. But great to see you. I should be watching your videos, Astrid. That you should do some live streams. But anyways, yeah, let's do this right here. Okay, so anyways, yeah, I would in this type of arrangement right here, it's best to stamp these after you add your colors. That way, when we're adding in color, we're not smearing any of our darker imagery. If it was stamped first. Now, you could stamp it first in like a StazOn or something like that, and you don't have to worry about it. But I'll be stamping these in dye-based inks. Or maybe I should emboss them. I'm into embossing now. Maybe I should try that just for kicks. I don't know. What do you guys think? Okay, so anyways, I'm going to show you a really easy way to do these things. Now, sometimes I just lay down my colors first. As long as I'm not working around really specific things, on this one right here, I'll work around my sun. Maybe I should stamp out that sun first, but I'll just know that the sun is going to be, well, I've just done that right there, so now that my sun is going to be right there, okay? And one of the things about this is I want to keep some areas a little bit light, because where I stamp my clouds there, that white area will be the sun reflecting off of the clouds. Now, where you retain your white, it's all up to you, you know what I mean? I mean, it's hard to tell right now, but just as long as you keep some areas light, you're going to be fine, okay? So you can go like this, you can do this if you want to, whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a clean process at all, okay? I know, if you do this for the first time, it's like, wait, what am I doing here? But, you'll see this come together when I add my clouds into the mix here, okay? All right, so that's the mustard seed. Let's go on and get kind of incrementally a little bit darker, maybe brighter. Remember, the big thing here is to retain your light areas like that. I know they look kind of ridiculous right now, but I'll show you what that will look like when I add my clouds over the top of it. Okay, you can do this in any kind of color scheme that you want. Here's a little bit darker right here. It's kind of an ochre. Well, not quite an ochre. I guess this one's the ochre right here. Hello, Sandra. Oh, Australia, look at that. We have an international group here, postings right here. That's what I kind of, logged on. I thought, let's see who's awake, Most people, here in the US, it's Pacific Coast time unless you're in Hawaii. It's 12:30 a.m., so it's going to be 3:30 on the East Coast, so, you'd have to really be a night owl or like an early riser if you're awake out here. But I'm glad you like the, the techniques and whatnot, Sandra. I'm always having a good time with it. I always had I had a distributor in Australia for a long time, and they always tried to get me down there, especially in the early 90s, but I just, running a small business, I just could not get away for, a week at a time or something like that. But I always wanted to get down there, and they were in Melbourne, so it was the Crafty Lady was the name of the company. And then she started making her own products at a later time, but she actually brought a contingency from Australia, probably late 90s or something like that, and they came to the US, and I think they arranged it around the time of one of the larger rubber stamp conventions at the time in the Los Angeles area. And I went out to the hotel that they were staying and gave a kind of not a workshop, but a demonstration. And that was always fun. But they would come out here every year. Oh, and some of the glossy cardstock that I'm working on right here, the Crafty Lady, Christine was her name, she would always bring me in her luggage, or, they would do carry-on or whatever, a little ream of, or just a partial ream of the glossy cardstock that she was able to acquire in Australia that came out of Indonesia, okay? But it was glossier and more, coated than just about any other glossies that you can find out here. It was super, super glossy and coated. And I still have some of that too. In fact, it's right here, and it's called Pace Setter, okay? I don't know if that's even still made out there or what, but yeah, it was some really nice cardstock. Okay, so anyways, I'm just kind of adding in this little background right here that's going to provide a foundation for these clouds that I'm going to add on here. I'm doing this scene for someone on Facebook that said they have all the stamps, of this card, so I just wanted to do an isolated version of this composition for her that she can access. All right, so I'm adding some brown down here, And one of the things that if you just logged on, but I'm working through a range of values right here. So in my first class, I always just tell people how to kind of line up a color scheme. You know, you can mix and match pads in there, but just line them up from light to dark. So it's almost like you're just breaking down, not, I don't know, it could be a rainbow or something like that, or just like a section that would be on like a color wheel or something like that, you know, analogous colors or whatnot. And I always tell people that if it blends to your eye, you know, here's yellow, green, and, you know, darker green or something like that. If it blends to your eye just fine, it'll blend on the papers, you know, no problem. You know, as long as it's the same type of inks that you're using. You know, I'm not going to blend in, you know, an alcohol ink, you know, with a dye-based ink or something like that. But as long as they're the same types, you're good. Okay, I think I've gone far enough with the background colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp out the imagery. I could have stamped out the imagery first, but sometimes it's good just to get some backgrounds going first, background foundation colors, and then just stamp your images over the top of it. That way, when you're blending all those colors over freshly stamped images, I don't have to worry about me smearing those impressions right after I stamp them out with that degree of, you know, color addition, toning, saturation, etc. Okay, so what color do you stamp out your images in now? Okay, well, if I stamped them out in anything like from these, you know, or lighter, the Distress ink or whatnot, where's that one? Yeah, like this yellow right here. If I stamped out this sun in those colors, we wouldn't be able to see it at all. So a lot of times what I recommend are one of the medium to darker tones, okay? So, well, let's go with this brown. Or should we go a little bit darker? Let's go a little bit darker. You know, for these videos where people are watching it, you know, sometimes I go a little bit more, kind of with a little bit more contrast than I do, you know, outside of a video, or especially these live streams. The resolution isn't quite as crisp as just recording it on my camera here. I don't know, it doesn't seem to be in the same high definition, so for the replay I'm going a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more contrast, okay? So that is the cloud with sun there, stamped in a pretty dark brown, okay? So again, if I stamp that image in like one of those lighter tones like this color, it might not even show up in there, especially because I'm going to be adding in some more colors into this too. So that is that. Let's go on with some cloud cumulus right here, okay? So I'll be referring to the person that's going to be doing this scene. She's going to be doing this scene, so I'm going to use this wooden one so you can see, but on this unmounted version right here, see, it's the same stamp, okay? Here's just the unmounted version. This way is kind of pointed up towards the light. These billows are top lit, okay? So one of the things that one of the people in my classes did, just so they remembered which way is up and which way is down, or which way the light is coming from, I'll do it on mine right here. They just took this, and oh, I already did it, and they just put an arrow up. That way is pointing at the sun. So if I'm stamping this out, this cloud is always going to be, when I'm making my impressions, pointed towards whatever, you know, light source I want. Okay, so I just know up and down, okay? But just so you can see it happening right here on this wooden version, I'll use this wooden version for these impressions here, okay? I'm going to go with the brown here. It's a little bit lighter than that darker brown, but let's see what this looks like. Okay, so this cloud here, if you ever use the cloud cumulus right here, if you're going to be blending it into other areas, one of the things I recommend is wiping this off, not completely dry, but just so that area stamps out lighter up there, pointed towards my sun, and I'm overlapping into the cloud with sun impression. This is where you never really have to line up Stampscapes. I'm not lining up. That cloud with sun went in here like that. So the cloud with sun stamp is like that. So you see what I mean? I have like a full, I don't know what this is in millimeters with this international group. I can say it in inches. It's like an inch into it, you know, or something like that. It's quite a bit. Okay. So see, I'm wiped off the top and it's pointed in towards that sun like that. Now I don't want to completely overlap the sun there. Okay. See how this is all bringing that, this looks, you know, really bad out here, but I'm, you know, I haven't stamped all my imagery yet. So you just go like this. This is just going to use a small portion of it because I only have this small area up here. And I'm going like this, like that. Okay. And I'm just going to keep repeating that. Now, re-ink in between impressions. Okay. Like that. All right. Like this. This is going to be a really fast card. Okay. Now you notice how it's lighter up here and a little bit darker down here. I've left some light area like that, so that when I stamp my cloud over that white like that, it looks like the light is now reflecting off of some of these areas of these clouds like so, okay? All right. My paper is pretty saturated with ink down here, so I'm just holding this down a little bit longer to get that impression made so that the impression reads on that area. Okay, but I'm also going to do this other little technique on here too. Okay, so after I stamp these out like that, we have our billowy clouds like that, and that's where these come into play like that. Okay. Now, I didn't tone this area out here with this brown yet, so I think I got to this color, this brown right here. So this is the darkest brown, and that's the brown that I stamped my sun in right there, my cloud with sun. So ink blending applicator right here can be found, you know, all over the world, right? You know, don't have to have specialized ink applicators. What I do is I kind of roll this in my ink and make it to the size of like my finger like that. It's almost like finger painting. Hello, Glenda, how are you? We have 3 comments on this video, and everyone is in a different country. It's an international group when I start a video at, you know, past midnight here. Although I do know some people in my time zone that are all, you know, total night owls, and they, you know, they're up until, you know, 2:30 a.m. or whatnot. Sue, let's see, can you use the same technique to, I think it's to have light bounce off the trees too? Now, what do you mean by bouncing off the trees? You mean where they are illuminating the trees? Or whatnot? I'm going to stamp out these trees on here, but I don't know if like light is kind of bouncing off of them. They're kind of more contrasting against this background right here. But I mean, you could. I mean, if you mean by stamping the trees first and doing this tone over the top of it, you certainly can, because especially with these inks right here, they're all transparent. So the only reason I didn't stamp the trees, you know, before I started adding all this tone is because I just knew that I would have to wait for them to dry, and adding this degree of tone ink over the top of wet trees, there would be a chance of kind of, smearing them a little bit, especially on the glossy cardstock here. Okay, so this, I'm adding this in here. Okay, now, one of the things about the clouds, okay, I stamped those clouds all in the same brown value out here. Okay, I stamped them in this color. Okay, but now I have taken this tone around the perimeter like this. Okay, now this is all part of the process. I just see it as kind of the layering of colors and images and whatnot. But see, when you take a color and you blend over an image stamped in a lighter version or a lighter value than whatever color you're blending in. I mean, I can still see it a little bit, but here, I'm going to do something just to kind of emphasize this point right here. Let me make this area a little out here a little bit darker and kind of obscuring some of the clouds in the background. But this will, can potentially kind of add to the richness of it. Okay. Let's go like that. Okay. Now, see, I can't see. Those clouds. There's not a lot of contrast in there anymore, right? You can hardly see it. So all you do is you go to, these are the first clouds stamped. You go to your darker color here. If you just kind of logged on, the thing that I did was I worked through a range of values right here. Okay. And I've colored this background with this range of tones. You can almost kind of see it there. It's like yellows over here, ochre, right in here. The orange is over here. And here's the dark browns kind of out here, okay? Now, I mixed in, I did the Distress inks in here too. You can use Magenta, whatever, or Stampin' Up, whatever colors you have. Let's see. Okay, so this is this is what I teach in my classes, especially Stampscapes too. It's the utilization of your value scheme in terms of the order in which you add these colors. So this yellow, the thing is, when someone sees a scene like this and they don't see it being made, the thing that gives this a really deep glow is the fact that this color is underneath all these other colors. This color is underneath these colors. This one's underneath these, and so on, okay? That's what makes that really glow. If someone was to first try to do this without seeing, this process being done, a lot of times what they do is they put the yellow here, and then that orange would be out here, and then, brown would be out here or something like that. And it doesn't look as deep and rich like this, like, light is coming from within. So all those other colors are kind of glowing through. So I don't, that being said, it's also a great way to create depth in your scene. So you might see this in a way as far and this as near, okay? Because these clouds right here look closer than those ones back there. But it'll be especially true when I go back to my cloud stamp. Okay, I'm going to wipe off this edge again. Okay, this is like pointing up that way. And I'm going to use this on the outside edge like this. Oh, you're on the train. That's interesting. That's awesome. Glad they have Wi-Fi there for you. Someone was asking me about, do you see that? Doesn't that look kind of more deeper now because we have the cloud in a different value as the cloud over there? I don't know why this one got so dark. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I've forgotten I stamped that one out in that darker brown or something. But having varied impressions, okay, can create extra depth. That's like if I was doing a forest or something like that. Sue asked about, trees. And you can do like trees or something like that. You do them in darker tones in the foreground and lighter tones in the background. You do, whatever. What color you do them in? I mean, if it was just a green forest, you can do them in kind of deeper, heavier greens or black, kind of closer to you, and the lighter versions in the distance, as things tend to look that way. Similar objects. Okay, see that cloud down there? Doesn't it look more kind of varied and rich here in terms of our kind of our value range in here? Maybe I'll leave that kind of just open like that. That looks like there's like a little corridor in between the clouds. Let's put another darker one over here though. All right, here we go right here. Okay. It's like a little funnel, Now, I think that kind of pushes back that sun a little bit distance wise, just in the cloud structure, but we're really going to do that with our foreground trees here. All right, now I did this one the other day. I'm going to add in one more stamp in here, or maybe some birds or something like that. I don't know. I got to do something a little bit different. Someone was asking me, how do you keep it fresh, when you use a lot of the same imagery from scene to scene? And I was just saying, well, you alter it, you do use something in different types of compositions. You can use different media, as well, different media combinations, seasonal types of things. If I did this exact same composition right here, but all these clouds were in blue tones, it would certainly have a completely different emotional kind of spirit to it. I don't know. It's just always fun to do. But what they asked was really a key type of thing, because for me, I certainly don't want to be bored. I don't like doing the same thing twice. Okay. Now I might forget that I did something, but then I don't remember it. So it's not, boring because I don't even remember doing it. Then, I'll look and I'll say, oh, I already did a lesson exactly, and that same type of thing. But I don't know. I like to mix it up. Okay, so that's adding a little bit more tone on the outside. The darker you add your anything within a composition, it doesn't have to be a scene. It could be any type of card making, okay? But the darker the components you add, and it could be just these little kind of vignette type of framing values on the outside of a card. By contrast, it makes the lighter, anything lighter than it, look that much lighter. So you make this one step darker, 2 steps darker. That looks 2 steps lighter, again, by contrast. Hello, Tina. Good to see you. Thanks for logging in, checking out the live. These lives are fun. How long is your train ride, Sandra? Okay, adding in some trees. This one might be one of those fun ones. If you do this type of thing, where you have the trees like this, spiraling around like that, it's one of those things where it looks like you're kind of lying on your back and looking up into the sky. But I'm going to kind of stick to this composition. I like this one a little bit better. I went richer, but okay, now see on this one right here, if I think, oh, I could have made that a little bit more kind of rich, in terms of my tones. At no point in time is it too late to add more colors, if you want to on here. If you do that though, try to retain some of those light areas, as opposed to making it completely uniform, because those kind of oscillations of dark and light in your piece is what gives it kind of a little bit more of a richness in terms of your value range. Okay, it's kind of one of my instructors, and when I was in school, called it checkerboarding. So it's like going from dark, light, dark. Well, this is light right here, but dark, little bit light like that in back of the trees, and then darker out here. So you're just kind of oscillating things back and forth. Okay, so believe it or not, almost done here in terms of, the vast majority of what this card's going to be about. But I'm thinking about, I'm gonna change this up here. This is just stamped out in, your black dye-based ink. I'm going to emboss on this one. Again, just to, I don't know, just to mix things up a little bit. And plus, I love using, does everyone have this pad right here? I don't know of any black pads that are very much darker than this one. But this one will not dry on glossy cardstock, okay? You have to emboss it, so again, this is glossy. Okay, so I was hesitating there because I'm also going to stamp out of this leafless tree, and I was thinking about stamping that out in maybe a dye-based ink, or this one going dye-based, so that I have one thing embossed and one thing in a little bit more of a flat black. Let's do that. Let's do that. Instead of just having one thing, let's mix it up a little bit more. Okay. One thing will be, one of the foreground images then will be flat, and it'll be a flatter black, but one of them will be a raised, maybe darker, I don't know, but a raised image. Okay, so you can play with depth right within your foreground space. Depth doesn't have to be something that's really close against something super far. It could be things that are relatively close to each other. 1 hour and 15 minutes. Yeah, that's a good thing you're taking the train. In some places here in Southern California, like if you're in Los Angeles, 1 hour and 15 minutes could be, that could be 20 miles away from your house or something like that. But you're just moving like, crawling along on the freeways. I don't live in LA anymore, but I certainly don't miss that traffic. There's a little bit of traffic around where I am in San Diego, but nothing like LA and Orange County. Okay, so let's go about like so. I'm going to put this one fairly high. Okay, yeah, that one's definitely going to be a lighter version of black that I end up using. Let me see, a little bit of composition here. It's gonna be there and over here. I'm kind of debating on whether or not I want another one over here. But if I'm doing these trees like that, I think that might clutter it up a little bit. Let me just do one. I mean, I could do one in the dye-based black and one over here in the, embossed in the Claire too. So again, variation and oops. Okay, let's see. Let's go like this. Sometimes people tell me when they see large stamps, they think, oh, wait a minute. I can't use 3 impressions of this image on this card because they're not going to fit. Well, in scenic stamping, you don't have to do, the full thing. I just use that little that little portion of it right there. See? Let's go with this again. Okay. Sometimes I like to stamp it a little bit, lower or higher than my previous impression. I'll go like this. I used about maybe, I don't know, whatever, 3/5 of it maybe. And again, this VersaFine Claire is very dark and crisp. Like that, okay. But look at that contrasted up against that sky in the background. It really makes for a really nice silhouette. I love doing those types of things. And this is one of those reasons why too. If you reserve the last foreground imagery, especially if they're going to be dark images like this, for the last steps, then you can get a really crisp version of them. And again, I couldn't emboss that first and do the background over the top of it because these would be raised. Okay, I couldn't get those impressions, so I don't know. I haven't been embossing for very long either, so a lot of times it doesn't occur to me to, that I'm going to be doing that in a scene at this point in time yet. Okay, let's see here. All right. I'm trying to think if I want to emboss anything else in here while I'm at it before, but I think the trees themselves, I think that'll be good. Let's do, let's see. I cleared a lot of stuff off of my desk, my working area right here over the weekend because I was teaching those workshops. So I got rid of a lot of things that I just wouldn't need for the workshop. Okay, yeah, let's go with this. Suddenly my workshop, my work area space right here, after years of never embossing things, is suddenly always gritty with embossing powder. Okay, so there are my embossing, I don't know, whatever, subjects right there. Some of that embossing powder stuck to my dye-based ink impression too. I didn't think it would be wet enough still. But I'm just going to leave it. Why not, huh? It'll have a little bit of texture on that trunk, okay? I don't fuss over things a lot. I know there's like those anti-stacking embossing things. I think that's a good idea, but I'm just too lazy to do that type of thing. Okay, so let's emboss this and see what it looks like. Hello, Beth. Keep absorbing, Beth. And thanks so much for watching. Thanks everyone for, checking out the videos and everything like that. I really appreciate it. I love stamping, but if people are watching the videos, it's kind of, you know what I mean? It's good to know that people are kind of, you know what I mean? I'm contributing something at least. Okay, here's my embossing gun. Okay. Now, one of the things about the embossing and the drying of the inks is sometimes when you dry those types of dye-based inks like that, it can make them look a little bit anemic. But one of the things that you do is you just spray seal this whole thing. Like that's still wet up there. You can see how much more vibrant it is up there than down here. If you spray seal this with an acrylic spray, that area will regain the look of the freshly stamped wet dye-based ink. Now, it's not wet to the touch or anything like that. I'm touching like that. It's not coming off of my finger or anything like that, but it's just still damp, and certain inks can dry dull, but you just spray seal it. But anyways, here, I know this is a little blurry, but there that is like that. See, we have a little bit of depth right here between this tree and these embossed ones, right? You know, well, these ones are actually raised like that, so. Let's see, let's get in a couple extra images in here, I think. Let's add in some birds like that. This would be a kind of a nice place for a quote too, or something like that up there. I think I might format this into a card. Here, let's go like this. And okay, just dye-based inks on this one. All right. Oh, I forgot. Let's do this right here. Okay, let me see if I hope you guys can see this, okay? Now, right now we have a lot of crisp imagery everywhere, right? I mean, it's kind of soft in terms of the colors in the background, but doesn't have to be brilliance on this one, okay? You can use any brand of ink, you know, white ink, Hero Hues. The Hero Hues and other brands of lines of pigment inks are all, I think they're all oil-based in nature, okay? The Brilliance one is water-based, and it's designed to dry quickly on non-porous surfaces or less porous surfaces such as the glossy. Glossy is still somewhat porous. That's how, you know, I'm able to apply all these inks to it and for them to stain and stick to that. But glossy is often still, it's a little bit, it's just not porous enough for most oil-based types of inks, okay? But the way that I'm going to be applying this in a very thin layer, it will have no problem drying, so you can use whatever brand you want. But I'm just going to go with the Brilliance because this will dry for me very quickly. Air drying, you know, you don't have to heat set or anything like that. But I'm taking a cotton ball like this. Do they call it cotton balls everywhere? It's probably called something else in your countries, but when I do like that, I go like this, and this is 100% cotton too. The synthetic ones don't work at all for me. But you take this, and it starts to fray a little bit. You can see, you know, how frizzy that is, but kind of smash it down a little bit like this, okay? So that's nice and flat. See how flat that is now. Okay, and you've also smashed some of the ink back up into this. Now you just absolutely have to be aware to not put a big glob of ink. You know, don't come straight out of here, especially if it's really super juicy. So let me show you what the consistency you want from this, okay? This is just a piece of black or dark glossy here, but that's a little bit too much right there, okay? So I'm going to blot it off a little bit first, okay? And then I'll go like this. So while I'm applying a wet ink like that, the spirit of it is more like you're going for, imagine you're kind of adding powder to your scene, okay? And that's kind of the application, the level of application that you're going for, the style of application. Okay, so what I'm doing right here is around the sun. I want that sun to glow a little bit, okay? So I'm just adding this like so. And I've tapped it like 15 times, okay? And I'm just starting to see a little bit of that application out there. I start it in the lighter area like that. And then I can move it away from that. So when I'm applying inks going from dark to light, I'm going from the outside to inside, okay? But when I'm applying light, I'm kind of going from light to dark, okay, like that, okay? So let's see if you can see this on this, this stream here, this less than, super high resolution stream. All right, does that kind of, can you see that at all, Sandra, can you see that on the train there? That little kind of frosty type of, layer of the white ink. I don't know, Beth, can you see that? I don't know who's still on here, but okay, so adding that in like that, all right? It kind of gives that, kind of airy, kind of misty look to the clouds as well, okay? And if you ever add too much, if you don't like it, then you just kind of wipe it off and it'll come off. That being said, when you want to fix it, you spray seal it. Okay, so adding this in like so. Sometimes you make your clouds look a little bit softer as well when you're doing something like that, okay? All right, so that is that. Now, let's go back in here and let's add some trees right over the top of it, okay? So one of the things that I just did here is I have made an area behind here kind of soft, right? So now when you add something like another impression right out of it, off of that, what you're doing is you're really playing around with contrasts. In stamping, there's almost no time that I can think of in stamping where there is an element of soft. Oh, you can see it in Sydney. We have Sydney here. Sydney's in the house. Good to see you. But do you see those birds right there? In a very tiny little area like that, you have this range now. Now, I'm not analyzing all this stuff and thinking about all this as the reason for doing things. I just stamped the birds in there because I like it. But having that area in there that's soft, now suddenly you can call this soft, and this is, whatever, hard or sharp. Okay? So soft. In stamping, most of the times what we're here, all of our kind of textures are all on this side of things, okay? But just adding a little bit of pigment ink like that into it, okay? You have really kind of gone all the way over here. So you've added this entire range, or, even if it's not a range, you've added this, distance here. You've added this contrasting thing in here. And it does something else too. It adds a little bit of light into dark as well, but in a very subtle way. So on something like this scene right here, you can see that white pigment ink in the distance right here. It's on the lake surface. In a workshop that I did today, we did this, the light beams coming through here. So this is what pigment ink can really do to it. These light beams took about, 10 minutes to do, maybe 5, okay, because I was teaching someone as I was doing it. So on here, and these light beams are not hard to do. All you're doing is, I just take 2 pieces of paper like this. You choose a vanishing point, one vanishing point, and it's this right here, okay? And then you're just tapping your pigment ink like that. See that? Then I have another light beam, and I'm going from the same vanishing point. But one of the things that I taught the person taking the workshop today was I taught them to kind of break up their beams and to, when it's going through objects like this, have it going in front of some objects, have it going in back of other ones, and here's another beam in the background there going in back of these trees. So you have these beams coming out here, and it gives a real 3-dimensional feel to it. And you don't have to do it where that one beam is completely, continuous. You have it broken up like that. So it really takes the need to be exact or anything like that out of the equation. We don't have to be perfect at it. We don't have to have a smooth application, and having it kind of more irregular. See how that's real white right here, but it's kind of less right there? I think that looks more natural. And it means that I wouldn't say I'm applying it in a haphazard way, but you're just not having to be so kind of uniform and perfect in terms of your application with it. And what it looks like here, it just looks, I think it looks better that way, okay? A lot of people think being kind of less exact is harder though, and because they've been so perfect about their applications of things and their placement, okay? which you could do and it'll look fine. But I'm just saying my point about that is you don't have to be. Hello, Linda. Linda, I was thinking about you. I was saying, well, are some people in the Pacific Standard Time that stay awake, and I was thinking about you in particular because I'll log on to Facebook at like 2 a.m. and Linda's like active. But there's a lot of people, we have Sydney, Melbourne, the UK in here, you know, Sanders on her way home from work right here. And she's got an hour and a half ride that I'm filling some time with. Um, Anyways, I'm adding a little bit more tone in there. See, like that, at no point in time can you not go back in and add that in there. Linda, someone on Facebook kind of pointed out one of the scenes from one of the workshops, and she wanted to do that, so I'm doing this one right here. But I have added in the leafless pine, just to mix things up a little bit. And instead of just dye-based black foreground trees, we have done the embossed. I know this is blurry, but so you can see it in there. Embossing, dye. So it's a little bit of a different contrast and execution right there in the foreground. I think this looks better. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think this looks better having it not embossed. I'm trying to imagine it being embossed too, and I think that would look okay. But I think I like the contrast between that. I think it's a little bit more deep, maybe. I don't know. Okay, so I'm just going to let's format this into a card really fast. With this one right here, I have some Star Dream gold paper, which I think would be good, but I'm going to just add. Let me see. Let me use a couple of these sheets like this. And one of the things that I like to do, if I've retained any white in my card, is I'd like to add a little bit of that white border around it like that. Okay, and then I'll do like a gold mat or something like that on the outside of that. Too bad I don't have any dark brown paper. But, okay, so crafter's tape. I bought a 4-pack of these, and I threw away 3 of them when they ran out, and they ran out fast on me before I realized these things, they sell refills for them. I didn't know they sold refills for like tiny little ones like this. I always thought the refills were just for those, kind of large, kind of, like framing, types of dispensers. Okay, let's see. I usually do a little bit of a thin one like that. That little thin border like that will kind of reiterate the rays of the light, or something like that. One of the things is too, I'll put in a few little highlights in here with a white paint pen. Let's see. Okay. I don't measure. Although sometimes lately I'm wondering, I wonder if I should. it'll come out like crooked, or it's like one of these little borders is a lot thicker than, you know, another one. Okay, let's see. So this is a piece of gold Star Dream paper. I think that'll be good with this, you know. Yeah. What do you think? Something like that? Yeah, let's do that one. Thanks, Glenda. Thanks, Astrid. Yeah, emboss. Have some fun. All right, there is that. And, you know, I think that area right there is really ripe for a word stamp. Let me find a word stamp here. I mean, I can't put too much there, but maybe one of these right here, just the word stamp, not like quote stamp or something like that. I do have one that says sunset. I don't know. Maybe that's too much, you know what I mean? It's a sun, you know, I don't know. It's not exactly a sunset. Dusk, there's dream, silence. I just used those recently. Clouds, I don't know. We can do clouds, but I don't know. These days, I don't know. It wouldn't be bad to put that piece in, you know, I don't know, whatever, 90% of my cards. Okay, I think I'm going to do that one. Okay, so it looks like I stamped it out in white the last time. And let me put it on the other side. All right, let me go this way. Thanks, Teresa. Thanks, Tina. Yeah, I don't think I put you to sleep, Linda. I don't know what time I've been on like Facebook at latest and I've seen you still on, you know. I don't know. I don't think for you 2:30 is like completely out of the question, huh? Okay, here's my gold ink and it's really kind of blotchy. That gold brilliance just dries too fast. It's almost like I need to re-ink with every use or something. But it works darn good though, so all right. I'm not sure if I can use this. Look at that. See, it's so sticky. My stamp just stuck to it. Okay, yeah. I might need to re-ink a little bit. I really don't want to ink though, re-ink, so I'm going to try to get this in this one inking. It normally wouldn't take that long to ink up a stamp though. Oh my gosh. All right, we're in a live stream here and it would be really embarrassing to stamp something out where a word stamp and to fail at that. Let's go with that. How's that look? I just put a little bit down. I don't know. Actually, it's quite a bit. All right, now we just don't want to over ink it, right? You know, pigment inks are so thick. Okay, that's it right there. Test print. Yeah. Okay, printing out metallic pigment inks, which are of course very thick. I think of pigment inks as paint practically, right? So when you're stamping them out on non-porous surfaces that are very slick, just make sure that you don't overstamp it and like squeeze out that ink on the sides of it, or you don't kind of press the stamp out and you kind of slide over, it kind of tweaks a little bit. So just be mindful about that. Not so much on the glossy cardstock, because glossy cardstock's reasonably porous, but I run into it like if I'm stamping it on foils that are super slippery, okay? So just, keep that in mind. And also press and hold. Don't squeeze it down any harder or anything like that, but just allow a lot of that ink to transfer over, okay? And again, the Brilliance inks are really good for that. They're designed to dry on the non-porous surfaces. They dry faster, of course, than the oil-based pigment inks. But, if I was doing this with an oil-based pigment ink in gold, maybe I'd gold emboss it or something like that instead, of just stamping it in gold, okay? Anyways, there you have it like that. All right. As you can see, you should always really clean your stamps off. I'm joking. But there we have it like that. That gold kind of matches really well with that perimeter. Now I could put this onto a folded card if I want to, but sometimes I just leave it in a kind of more of a postcard type of format like that. You can always write your stuff on the back. Yeah, let's see. Go with that and a couple final touches. I don't think it absolutely has to have final touches. I think it looks pretty good, decent as is, but let's see. Oh, here we go. I'll take my white paint pen, okay? Now we have retained some of the white of our paper, okay? So when I'm using this is going to represent little kind of highlights being cast by that sun, okay? So let's do this. I almost don't have to do too much of it because one of the things like about that raised embossing is it's already capturing some of the light and reflecting that light. Look at that. Like when you go like that, But let's see what it looks like. If I don't like it, I can always just wipe it off or just not add anymore, right? Okay, let's see. All right, so on the sides of the objects facing the light, I'll add a few highlights. The trick is to not add so many that it looks like, you've kind of hung up some Christmas lights on your object. So here's just a few little, highlights on this tree, on this leafless pines right here. See, it's just kind of capturing some of that light. It looks like little tiny dots, of course, but this is like viewing it at arm's distance like that, you know? Okay, and let's put some on these other trees, okay? That. I won't put too much of it, but here's the thing too. You put more highlights in the objects closer to your light source, and where they're in the dark out this way. Yeah, thanks for checking it out, Sandra. And the light is coming from above there. Okay, so these trees are kind of being more top lit. Okay, like that. And that is that. Okay, so this little tiny, they call it specular light. It's light that's whiter, or light that's brighter than white, I should say. In photography, it's things like little glistening little things of light being reflected at, back at the camera. But that's what those little things represent to me in these scenes. It's specular light, not spectacular light, specular light. All right. So see, it kind of pulls it out from the background. I guess it's one of those things when you don't have that reflected light on that embossing, we can have it there in those little white paint pen dots, right? This is like a 0.7 millimeter Artistro paint pen. We have that, and we have our reflected. I love that reflective gold type of thing too, because that piece looks different like that than it does like that. So it's kind of dark and then light like that. So I don't know, a little bit different personality like that. So I don't know. What do you think, Linda? Little tiny things like that, huh? The embossing look. We weren't doing that before, but that looks so dimensional that way. And then it's like integrated, into the scene like that. But when you hold it up like that at the light, I mean, these things look like, completely like unrelated to this card. But then you go like that, so it's, I think when we do things like this with these little reflective types of things like that, now the embossing is reflective. I think that when people get a card, yeah, I think people can enjoy it just for this. But when they get like this, and when it's reacting to light like that, I think it becomes a little bit more interactive like this, and people will do things like this, to it. And I don't know, it kind of becomes a little bit more of, like I said, an interactive piece to be held and turned and kind of inspected than just, a flat two-dimensional piece that doesn't really change personalities, from the angles that you use it at. Not that it has to, but those little types of things, I think, kind of just add that little extra element to the, something like this. Okay, so anyways, that is that. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your night, day, midday, dinner. If the rest of the train, right, if you haven't disembarked there, and have a nice, peaceful rest of day, or start to the week or whatnot like that. Yeah. I don't know. I got a little of that powder down here, Linda, but I don't know. It didn't stick to that. It doesn't stick to my dye bastings at all, Although I did just stamp this one right here, and there was a little bit of powder like down there, but if I had extra powder out here, I just took it like this and I just, do the, the embossing powder kind of removal maneuver like this. Click. And I think a lot of it fell off, but this trunk here is a little bit embossed where the rest of it isn't, where I was putting that powder down there. Okay, folks, logging off. Have a rest of the great rest of day. And so again, the piece that I was referencing right here was someone on Facebook. She said she's going to do this right here. So again, this piece goes out to them. You know, I did add in a couple different things on this one because I didn't want to do the exact same thing again. So yeah. So thanks, Glenda. Glenda, you're the first and maybe the last comment on this broadcast right here. So anyways, logging off. Again, thanks so much for joining in here. Great to see everyone from all over the world and whatnot. And had fun stamping with you. All right, we'll see you on the next broadcast. Signing off. Let's see. Thanks so much for joining in. Triple exclamation marks here.